sometimes you love your punk friend, but this particular punk friend is one of those punk friends that you got to stay away from.
We might not go to the extreme,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of Naquans in our culture. Hey, girl.
Hey.
You literally just woke up like this, girl.
Pretty much. Not for real.
Tell me your perspective on the DL Whisper, or rather, what would you like to talk about? This floor is yours, sis.
You know, the thing that I think about for me that is baffling more so than anything is the fact that this is exposing the way that people truly feel about trans folks, because that's what this really all boils down to.
Yes.
And I think that what this became was a vehicle for people to say all of the things that they would normally say without any excuse, right? The DL Whisperer provided an excuse to a lot of different people for all of their bigotry, all of their transphobia, all of the things that they've been wanting to say, regardless of his existence or them being DL or their thoughts around sexuality. This has all really been about the fact that for whatever reason, there is a beef. There is some unhinged drama that certain women have with trans women simply for existing. And the DL Whisperer gave them an audience where they were able to express these frustrations under the guise of protection. He was able to be as gay as he wanted to be, and also as problematic as he wanted to be, right underneath their nose, because y'all submit these men, y'all give him all of these men to go and investigate. And all he is doing is picking the ones that he finds attractive enough to give his time and attention to, and putting y'all in the danger that y'all are sitting there for hours and on end saying that trans women are causing y'all. But it's men like this, it's predatory men like that are the problem, that are convincing you that trans women are somehow your biggest enemy. And the fact that they poured in $11,000 for his safety after watching him be raped, belittle, threaten, and drive by on these women shows just how obtuse they can be in the name of hatred.
Now, I will take it one step further to co-sign on what you're saying, sis. I will say that not only is he giving cisgender women, you know, the space to express their hatred, their transphobia, the term that you've added to the chat, but also cis gay men. Like he is a butch queen. He, like as you said in your content today, he a punk. And he creates a space where punks can be like, yeah, I've been thinking that same shit too. And I think that in my head, I put the DL Whisper, 47. I put all of them in the same boat of just exposing the bigotry, the transphobia, the hatred, the homophobia that has been in existence. And then they just created a space for y'all to just say the dumb shit that y'all been believing for the longest. And the unfortunate part about that, though, is I'm curious about what do we do with the culture that remains now that we've pulled the wool, you know, we've shed light on all this. Now what?
You know, the thing about that is I think that there has to be a culture. I read in someone's comments where their solution to this was we have to make it not cool, right? And I think that right now it's still cool. One of the people that commented on my video a couple of minutes ago, they said something to the effect of the fact that, like, as gay men, the ones that do not like, or the ones that are going out of their way to justify this behavior are also a part of the problem, because without the trans community, a lot of us don't have the things that we have. And these are things that trans women have been saying for years, right? Like we know that if you are a person who doesn't feel that way. But I think furthermore, what it also perpetuates is that trans women are not even safe in our own home. Like we're not safe in our own home. And by home, I mean the queer community. When we look to our left or to our right, if I have to choose between running down the street where the queens are and running down the street where the trade is, I should be able to navigate that situation in 2.5, because I know that my brothers are going to understand part of my struggle and be down for me. Now I have to work. I run the risk of running down that street thinking that they're going to be here for me and having them hold me down and say, hey, he right here. And that's a problem. Because I think that when we see these issues happening in queer community, the first people, even the most problematic girls that are always talking stuff about gay men or saying negative things about gay men when they get into their tiffs, when stuff pops off, it's always the girls that are providing shelter. It's always the girls that are giving their funding. It's always the girls that are giving their resources. The ones that are underfunded, these organizational bodies that are run by one trans woman, are the people that are donating to these, you know, these bail funds and these, you know, let me donate some money to the jail. But when we are in need, unfortunately, there are a good few of y'all, but unfortunately, there's an overwhelming um, there's an overwhelming number of you all that either secretly or very,
Overtly.
overtly will say things like, y'all are men, and I agree with the way that these people are talking to y'all.
And see, that's always okay. I'll call the bullshit on the girls. And for purposes of this conversation, we will call trans women the dolls, just so we can parse through which of the girls we talking about.
Yeah.
But that is one thing that I will call the girls on all the time is, like, for instance, I can name 50 trans women in my life, and in my head, woman, because trans women are women. I cannot bring my mind to process like you. In my head, I'm like, I don't know what you would have looked at. Although you do have a documentary
I do.
that is out that you were on tour on. So if you want to know more about Hope Giselle's journey, there is a
Yeah.
documentary that is coming to a city near you. Shameless
And
plug. But I don't get it. I think because it feels to me as if I would have to go the mental acrobatics that I would to go out of my way to do in order to see people like you or Dominique Morgan or T.S. Madison or several others as men, because it
yeah.
just does not process. Y'all, you're tall as hell, but you fish, girl. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think a lot of people believe that womanhood is something that females own, right? In the same way that I believe that there are certain men, people talk about the fact that like men just don't have an issue with trans men. And I think that it's less of a fact of men having issue with trans men and
Uh-huh.
more the fact that men are not, there is no competition or threat presented by trans men in the realm of dating. Right. While trans men are oftentimes dating cis women, that's not something that I think cisgender men see as a competition to them. And I think a lot of cisgender men feel like if I wanted that girl, even if she was with a trans man, I could have her, which speaks to the misogynoir and the way that a lot of Black men specifically and men of color see trans men as less than men or not men for real. And so there's no real discourse to have between them because they're either not clocked or if they are clocked, they're not respected. I think that the conversation that we are not having is about the fact that even though there are so many cis women that sit back and say things like, I'm the blueprint, I could never be jealous, I could never da 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 da, and that's okay. But let me explain this to you. Why do major fashion houses continue to sue Fashion Nova for recreating their designs if that's the blueprint? If that's the blueprint,
That's a good
I
point.
don't have any. I don't have to do all of this because we the blueprint. They come into Louis Vuitton anyway. But do you know why that lawsuit still goes out? It is because there's a threat that there's a part of their audience that is going to be taken because they understand that while most people who care about label and fashion and the idea of what it looks like to the masses, even those people can be swayed if the quality is still the same, if the look is going to get the same amount of heads turning, and if there's still the same amount of social currency in wearing a Fashion Nova outfit that looks the same way as that $13,000, Louis V outfit, I'm going to do that. And I
Yes.
think that the same thing can be applied in this instance. A lot of women feel like even if they don't respect trans women, there are some men who are going to look at us and say, even though this is not true and not in everybody's cases, but they're going to look at us and say, well, you know what? That's less work. That's less nagging. That's more understanding of my male experience. These are the assumptions that these men make. And I think in tandem with that, a lot of the women who are wanting to engage with these men make those same assumptions. And so that's the fear. That is the threat that we are talking about. It's not always about looks, it is about the proximity to being something that feels easier and more accessible with the same benefits socially. And I think the only reason that DL men exist is because there aren't benefits socially. But when you're talking about interpersonally, when you're talking about that relationship, when you're talking about the sexual bond, oftentimes I think that that is what cis women are jealous of. And that's the conversation that the DL whisperer then capitalizes off of.
And so, okay, so now that we've rounded back to the DO whisper, because this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize. Like, I did my research. Y'all buckle up. And so the DO whisper is on record as being from Martinez, Georgia. For those who don't know, Martinez, Georgia is damn near Florida. Like, my family is from 3 hours south of Atlanta, and Martinez is like 45 minutes past that. Like, you could get to Tallahassee before you get to anywhere else in Georgia. from Martinez.
Okay.
Gilmer, Georgia, where this protective order is like 30 minutes north. There is 4 hours between where this man lives and where the protective order is taken out. Yet he was arrested in Gilmer, Georgia, way north. You can't tell me this man wasn't plotting something dastardly
Sinister.
to drive 4 hours for some bullshit.
How do we
Especially the fact that the dogs be packing heat now, and T.S. Madison got G at a gated community. Like, it's amazing to me the hoops this man jumped through for nothing to end up
for
behind bars.
for not but you know what, it's not for nothing, because I think that what we are missing is the fact that this man is essentially destitute, right? And I say this not as a read, but I say this as an observation. When we look at all of the photos, he has a specific look that he sticks to. His background is never giving anything other than what it, it gives: four walls, white refrigerator, it gives ooh child the ghetto. And so I
Sidebar,
think that
wait,
like,
but pause right there. Now
mhm,
we do have to just point out our privilege because background is T on this screen, yours and mine. I got lights and shit. This 4K ass camera. So clearly we have a little privilege, but still, the girl does give destitute.
it gives destitute. And so I think that we also have to take into account, because this is the queen of nuance coming out of me, right? We also have to take into account that this man probably does not make a lot of money. And he probably saw his first influx of coin come in when he had his first whatever that was about Madison that really blew up his profile and really started to get people
On
to
the
pay attention
TikTok before he got banned. Yeah.
on the TikTok, right? It's one of those things where I feel like for him, this was social media. And I feel like social media was gassing him up to do something dangerous. It is not to say that I believe that he was making idle threats, but it is to say that I believe that for him, social media was his way of paying those bills.
Yeah.
And every new stunt got more and more traction. Every new stunt got more and more followers that were willing to pay into the system that he was trying to build up in order to create sustainability. If you ask me, I think eventually he would have laid that to rest, but only after he had a substantial amount of followers that were willing to follow his every word. And I think he was on his way there, and the GoFundMe was a test of that. Let's see how many of these people I can get to continue to buy into me before I really start selling them what it is that I want them to have. Wearing that same raggedy ass do rag and those major red pumps that he had on Tasha K's show is crazy. And I mean, at this point, I'm surprised Aquaphor hasn't offered him a campaign with them greasy ass chicken grease lips. It makes
No,
no
no. Aquaphor would offer you and me a deal much before the way juicy as we are. But the other thing that I've noticed, and I hope I'm not telling your business, but you have made a major relocation recently. I
yeah.
have moved from Dallas to Atlanta, and I will tell you there is not a relocation under the sun that I could have done for $11,000.
Not
Like,
at
there
all.
is not a way that I could have picked up an actual life in one location and moved to another location, not across the city, the state, or the country for $11,000. Like, it's impossible to think. And so that to me underscores exactly what you're saying, the fact that there a level of destitute and what's the word I'm looking for? A level of, like, he needed this to work.
Desperation. I think he was,
Desperation, that's what I'm looking for.
yeah, destitute and desperate. Destitute and desperate. The thing about this that's also cringy to me is the amount of people, specifically some of our black gay men and community, that are saying things like my video this morning. And I understand, I want to address this too. When I
Mhm.
say punk, I'm saying punk as a sense of, there are categories of how these words go for me. Gay men are gay men, but I feel like a punk is a specific type of gay man. We
Oh yeah.
all know a punk. And my thing is, sometimes it's not even bad, but we know the attitude and we know the moves that a punk is going to make, right? And
Yes.
sometimes you love your punk friend, but this particular punk friend is one of those punk friends that you got to stay away from, because this is the one that is going to befriend all of the girls that don't really like gay people, and they keep him around because he gives them access to be able to harm us. And I think that in the same way that those types of punks worked on the playground, playground in elementary school and high school is the same way that he is operating now as an adult in real life. He is using his adjacency and his connection to cisgender women who are then going to be able to use their connection to cisgender men to shroud himself. Because when they come in looking for a head to bust, the girls are going to say, oh, no, not this one. He's with us, but get them over there. And so there's also a sense of safety. And on top of that, I want us to be mindful that his entire plight is liking these types of men.
Yes, that's where it started.
It started there. And so not only are we giving him platform, but then we are turning around and saying, you know what? How about this? We're going to give you platform and we're going to give you our boyfriend's numbers, home addresses, cars, VINs, all of the things that you need to be able to track them. And whole time, this man is probably doing all of the do and giving all of the things that y'all think that these trans women that you have never met to your partners and then sending them back to you and giving you false profits about them. Like I would not be surprised if we don't bust this thing open and 2 years from now, or maybe at the end of the year, we find out things about Naquan and how he's used this to capitalize on men and women, and everybody was a victim except him. I would not be surprised.
The issue that I take with Black culture, this is not a Black queer issue to me. This is a Black problem. The issue that I take is there is certain tea that his story reeks of that people like you and I just pick up on. Like, we just know. Like, we know you the DL whisper because you out here sucking dick or whatever. You getting the girls, the men, and you've picked up on that. I bet you the first time you saw his face, you was like, oh, I done clocked the T. Like, we didn't need a timeline. We didn't need a whiteboard. We just like, oh, I get it.
Right.
The unfortunate part about that, though, is one would think that if, for instance, I, as a cis Black woman, were in a relationship with someone who is DL or is suspected of DL or all these things, one would think that they would pull people like you and I closer so that we can have a actual conversation about this topic and help hip you to the T. But what happens is we create this schism as if the DL man and everybody who he is interested in is now the enemy. But the gotcha is you got the snake in the hen, you got the fox in the hen house.
Yeah.
Naquan is the problem. Because I'm not over here fucking DL men no more. Now, granted, if I had a season, 15 years ago, but I had my season. As far as I know, you not fucking DL men. Like the people that are the least threatening to cis women and their DL men are the people that are being demonized the most by cis women and their DL men. And that's the part that I just don't understand about Black folk.
But the funny thing about that is it kind of goes back to the, I want to say like pretty privilege. It's not passing privilege so much in this particular conversation, but I think that it's pretty privilege. Mm-hmm. And pretty being a nuanced word in the context that I'm using it in right now, because I think that a lot of those people don't want to hear it from you and I because we look like we got our shit together. When you look like you have
Okay. Didn't see that one coming, but go ahead.
But you have to think about it. Not only is his audience mostly women, but no tea, no shade. If you click on a couple of those profiles, I give you 5 clicks. Mm-hmm. You're going to see a very similar motif amongst the women that are on there supporting him. You're not going to see a bunch of doctors and lawyers and well-to-do women, well-off women. You're going to see a bunch of our cousins and sister Keisha, them that baby around the block and arguing with their baby dads on the phone. And when you think about the type of people that those folks want to be around, it's not folks like you and I, because in their mind, we think that we're better than them. In their mind, we think that we're smarter than them because we talk over their heads. In their minds, we are unrelatable. But when the little dusty foot punk with the majorette boots come in and is like, girl, y'all gotta be safe. Let me suck your man dick to make sure. Like that, those are things that they like run and gravitate to. One, because he acquiesces to what they believe gay men are, which is thirsty little dirty foot punks that will do anything to get a piece of peen.
Punks,
right? And beyond that, I think then what he does is he perpetuates this fear that if you let a Jay or a Hope come in, of course they're gonna cape for these men. Of course they're gonna say not everybody. Of course they're gonna do X, Y, and Z because look at them. They're a part of that world. And it also plays, I think, even more so into the idea of why there aren't gonna be a lot of trans women that are gonna come in and change that, especially if you look like me. A lot of those women don't want to take advice from a trans woman that if I was sitting in the room with y'all, nobody would really be able to point us out and probably would likely pick the wrong person and not the one trans girl in the room. And so there's
Yeah.
so much gotcha about the reason for why this happens. But I think the majority of it is because there is an insatiable desire for Black masculinity that presents itself in a very specific way. And I think that in the rise of the quarter zip, and the rise of Black boy joy, and the rise of Black men frolicking, and the rise of painting my nails and wearing the stacked jeans while still being heterosexual,
Mm-hmm.
there is a fear amongst certain types of Black gay men and certain types of Black women that say that the masculinity that they love is dwindling, very similar to the MAGA movement. The white America that they once knew is dwindling. It's going away. And this is a final ditch effort. And who they believe is their Charlie Kirk of DLdom to keep this version of masculinity alive. Because if we keep DL men scared, we keep these men toxic, we keep them thugged out, we keep them the way that we like them, and we know that they're gay. We know they fucking y'all too, but it's about the aesthetic. We're losing the aesthetic because too many men are finding themselves and being happy with not fucking with us. And that's a problem. And that is what that space perpetuates, is the desire for these men to continue to lose themselves for the sake of holding on to a specific type of Black masculinity that makes a certain type of Black femininity comfortable.
Let me ask you one step deeper, and if we could broaden the conversation, because what one thing that you touched on that I really resonated with is the aesthetic of Black men is evolving. It's
Yeah.
not this old school version of masculinity. You can be the same dude. It's just people have the freedom to express in a lot broader strokes than they did previously, right? And that is not to undermine one's sexuality or one's expression. It's just, people got a whole lot more colors in their crayon box, right?
Mhm.
Do you think the same exists with just people in general? Because I can remember a season where transsexual was a streetwalker on the corner on the pier pulling tricks. And now that we have Hope Giselle's and we have T.S. Madison's, we've got, trans women on TV. We've got I hate to always revert back to Pose, but Pose was monumental. But we got the Pose and the MJ Rodriguez's and the Angelica Rosses and all these different versions of trans and different expressions of womanhood. Just like we have different expressions of masculinity and manhood, we have different expressions of what it means to be Black, what it means to be all these things. There is a diversification of our culture that it feels like this old guard wants to hold on to and fighting tooth and nail for, just like, as you said, just like MAGA wants to hold on to these very, very racist tropes about what it means to be American or white or all these things. Why is that, sis? Why is this corner of our culture stuck in 1965?
Because we are going to leave people behind who do not wish to ascend beyond what they know. There's a group, just the same way that there's a group of white people that are perfectly fine being hicks and white trash and rednecks and fishing out of the neighborhood creek and doing the things. There is a community of Black folks that are perfectly fine with their entire existence being paid for by WIC, food stamps, housing subsidies, all of those things, and barely getting out of high school. And that's no tea, no shade to our community, but we all know those people and we love them. It's not that there's a separation that's being made, I think, in this day and age, at least, by
Mm-hmm.
the academics, the elites, or just the semi-learned African American individual. But what I think is going to happen, or what I think a lot of people are sensing is happening, is that there's a new awakening that is coming with Black men taking back their autonomy over their own existence and what masculinity looks like. And with that awakening, it's also forcing Black women who are engaging in these tropes and hiding behind the men as the excuse for why they were engaging in these tropes. It's sending them to the forefront. And some of them don't want to grow. They likes being able to say, I'm not the problem. My brother don't mess with that gay stuff. I'm not the issue. My daddy is homophobic. But now that daddy is like, you know what? I realize in all of my years that this is wrong. I work with a dude at the job and he gay and he's done more for me than my boss has done in the last 20
Mm-hmm.
years. I've turned a new leaf. Right? When your brother comes home from college and now his bestie is a gay man with a husband and he over there every other weekend and they're doing their things and they're like, when all of those things happen
Mm-hmm.
and these Black men are coming back to these toxic Black women that they helped to build, let's not absolve them too much now. That when they come back to these toxic Black women on this subject that they've helped to build, these Black women are expecting the nigga that left. But now daddy is going to work and becoming a new man every day. Brother is going to school and becoming a new man every semester. And now what we're seeing is a resurgence of these new Black men who still want to hold on to what it means to be a man, but they understand that they don't have to put down other groups of people in order to do that. And Black women, some, not all, some, not all, some Black women are not okay with that because they lose the cover of protection that they had while spewing out bigotry that was all their own and blaming it on Black men. You can't do it anymore, not as easily. When all of the Black men that you were looking your nose down on becomes a part of your brother, your husband, your whatever social circle, now you can't blame your homomisia, your transmisia, all of your phobias on anybody else but you, sis. And you got to sit with that. And there are a lot of Black women that do not, and cannot fathom the idea of growth of masculinity that does not center them as a making or breaking point. A lot of these women are used to pussy being the final draw. And a lot of these men are saying, I don't need your pussy per se. If it comes with me having to disenfranchise my friend or the person that showed up for me at work or the people who come up into my life and bring joy. And that is the thing that I think is really fueling all of this.
And as you're saying that, because again, you're good about connecting dots that I didn't even know had a connection. But as you're saying that, what I hear or what I have seen in my social media feeds are, and granted, I don't have any research to support this, but I definitely see the feed of Black women who say niggas ain't shit, the
Mm-hmm.
dating pool is trash, got piss in it, blah blah blah, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I also see, on the other hand, a whole bunch of Black men who are living a luxurious life in a high rise. He may or may not get his nails painted. He may or may not, get a facial every 2 weeks, or he may or may not do all these stereotypically soft things, living
Right.
his best life, single as a dollar bill, but luxuriating. And
Mm-hmm.
then it does feel like there is a proportional relationship between these two things, of Black women who want men not to evolve, and at the same rate that Black men are actually evolving. And then
Yeah.
unfortunately, what happens in the middle, from what I'm gathering and what I'm getting educated on by you, is the DL whisper kind of exploits that gap in the middle of
Yes.
these men evolve, and now look at this soft shit that they doing, and now it forces you, Black women, way deeper into your toxicity, deeper into the issues that you have with these evolved men, to
Here we
where
go.
now we can't even see each other. We're so far apart that there is this chasm in front. Unless Black women settle for toxic men, which come with a whole bunch of problems, or evolve
Or
along with
evolve.
the rest of culture. And now I will say, and again, to underscore what you said, it's some women, not all,
Yeah.
some, not all. In some cases, it might be most, but it definitely is not all women, and
Right.
definitely not all Black women. But there is a space in the middle where I am curious. And now that I have you on the show, I'm going to ask, because we got 100 and however many black gay men watching. So now we got to call the girls in. Girls, gays, and the men in, because I got called out on pronouns the other day. Where, if there was a message, and I ask you the same question every time you're on, but if there is a message on this topic, at least, that you want to send to cisgender black queer men, what would it be here? Because I very clearly see that this is an attack on black trans women. On some level or another, you boil it down to a dislike, a distrust, a transmissia surrounding black trans women. How do we activate? What is the message you want to tell us?
You know, the thing about this is that I really want, and I hope that you all truly understand and receive this in the way that I mean it, with love from my heart.
Uh-huh.
Most trans women, especially the trans women that grew up around the time that I was coming out. So we're talking, like the 2018, 11, 14 girls around those eras.
Yeah.
A lot of us, our first crushes, our first men in our life were the butch queens that we hung with, that then became our affirming brothers slash weird romantic thing that couldn't happen because you my sister now, and I also don't like I don't understand how we go from being besties to you being my affirming partner, to us boxing these people up after the club, or, you standing up for me at the restaurant when somebody misgendered me on purpose. Like, I don't see how we go from that to now fighting tooth and nail to say that trans women are these dangerous people. And I also want you all to take notice of this as our brothers. And I want y'all to see that a lot of the things that trans women are saying are in response to a behavior that is being pressed upon them. You want me to say this about y'all? Fine. Like, I'm going to go ahead and give it to y'all because I'm sick of you saying X, Y, and Z when you should understand me. I'm sick of you saying that you can't stand me and you hate me now, but you used to be my brother. I'm sick of you saying that I don't deserve X, Y, and Z when you were the first person to hold the door open for me. You were the first person to affirm my pronouns, and now you're sitting up here saying that you don't understand them. Make it make sense. And so this whole feud between us is not coming from nowhere. It's coming from the love that we've had for one another that's been tainted, because I think a lot of you all believe that your safety and what's happening socially and what's happening in America is going to come at the expense of your sisters. And I'm here to tell y'all that we are on a cliff. And I want y'all to imagine our relationship as such. We are on a cliff, and the trans girls are in front of you. And in front of you, all you see is that goal, and y'all are pushing us and pushing us and pushing us, and we are out of weapons, and we are being pushed closer to the edge of that cliff. And once we fall off, y'all have spent so much time trying to save yourself at the expense of us. Some of you all are crying while you do it because it hurts, because you know it's wrong. And y'all have been so focused on that and trying to save yourselves that you forgot that the people that set you up to do it are right behind y'all. And now the same position that we were in, y'all are going to be in. And imagine what would have happened if somewhere in the middle of that push, you would have taken 2 seconds to listen to the trans girl that said, turn around. Turn around. Because that's where we are. And I need my black gay men, I need my black gay brothers to understand that all a lot of the girls need y'all to do is turn around. Because if you don't, after they're done, as y'all are celebrating us falling off that cliff, one of y'all is going to slip, and you're going to wonder where the pressure is coming from. And it's going to be because you never turned around. Please take heed. If nothing else, take heed to the fact that we are on the same side. And if we're not, we should be. It's just that simple.
That was big. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Hope Giselle. So let me not just sign off that way. I will say that the biggest lesson that Naquan Palmer, I think today will be the last time I use the term DL whisper on this show. But the biggest lesson that Naquan Palmer has showed me is that all of your skin folk ain't kinfolk. And somehow or another, he has found a tribe that does not actually mean for his good, and he has believed it. Yeah. And that is one thing that I have realized. And while some of us may not be making content calling trans women men, and some of us may not be making content um casting aspersions on other queer men that may or may not be out of the closet, we might not go to the extreme,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of Naquans in our culture.